I wanted to provide a little bit of insight on what's going on in the country right now. Someone said I should start a Substack where I just say what I feel is going on in the government right now every day. I really like that idea, but for now, I'm doing it this way. So, what's playing out is an attempt to break the central government. I believe that Trump does this mostly out of self-interest, so it is for him mostly about stealing money, mostly about avoiding jail time, and like a little bit about carrying out Project 2025. Trump's not really internally organized well enough to carry out anyone's plan other than his own narcissistic plan to get his supply for the day. But the idea of breaking the central government really goes back to the Reagan days and the belief by capitalists that the people need to believe in capitalism again. And they think the way to do this will be to break the government enough that the people lose trust in the government and they become interested in private ownership. And this is pretty much the only thing that Trump and Elon have in common, is that they are intense capitalists. Now, the people have been on the verge of socialist revolution maybe since the Great Depression. You can see from many of the themes in our recent history, from the New Deal, which was a placation to get us to not totally revolutionize or communize, which ultimately gave us the amazing economy that we had in the middle years, to the revolution of the 1960s, to today. And there have been great efforts throughout our history to increase individualism, to break social safety nets, and to get people to fight each other. But a really interesting thing is happening now. As they break the system more, the people are becoming more communal. They're actually working together more. And so the fundamental belief of Project 2025, which is that if we break the central government, the people will be more open to privatization, it appears to not be coming true. It appears to be having the opposite effect. It's teaching people what power they have to collectively organize. Now, I believe the only reason that we haven't had a socialist revolution yet is that certain white people cannot agree to share their money and their space and their culture with Black people. And you notice that is the main thing that Trump is messaging. Look how I am fighting the brown people for you. Look how I am looking after white interests. Don't you want to play into capitalism more? And so we must deconstruct and learn the history and talk to each other. It's so important for white people to have conversations with other white people who will not listen to anybody else. But whether or not we figure out how to play nice with each other, the federal government will become broken. One of the new downloads that I got about this sort of swing to the right, not just in this country, but all around the world, of right-wing ideologies and white supremacy and sort of this swing back into fascism. What is this about? What is this lesson? And what came out was that through time, there has been a gatekeeping of information. Information was for the elites, and it was seen that the uneducated, the common person, could not handle the information. And sometimes this is positive because you don't want correct information to come from the wrong source, lest people not trust it. So it can be good to have credentialing in education so that you protect the validity and correctness of your information. And what has happened is an expansion of our technology. Now, everyone can access all information, and it is very hard to verify the validity and correctness of the information received. So in this media environment is a better strategy to disbelieve everything, because you literally don't have enough time in your life to check. But the effect that this has globally is it gives people who previously were shut out information. But without the wisdom and the knowledge of history, it is sort of swinging all of the people to the right. And why to the right and not the left? Well, I would argue that our media environments are very fear-based and reinforce lack, separation, anxiety, whatever would sell. And those emotions reinforce conservatism. They reinforce protecting yourself, becoming insulated and isolated, fighting other people. And humanity always has to go through this wisdom cycle. It appears every few generations where they swing to the right like that and they realize, oh no, yeah, in the long term, if you do that, You just end up killing a bunch of people for no other reason than they have a different religion than you, right? And through that wisdom process, you go, oh, okay, that's bad for us to do as a society. And the people who have studied the history and are familiar with this cycle are like, I can't believe we're doing this. And what I'm getting through my intuition is that this swing to the right kind of happens every time you open up an information channel. Probably a similar thing happened when you had the printing press. I don't know history well enough. Maybe you could tell me. The same thing also tends to happen with destabilizing the economy. New technologies, as good as they are, they tend to destabilize the existing economy. Same thing that happened in the 30s, sort of a response to industrialization. I'm also getting that this particular journey into fascism will not last as long as it did around the 1930s. The lesson will be learned quicker. It will be a shorter cycle because the technology itself is faster. So the learning is also faster. So the world has to go through this wisdom cycle because of the new people that have access to this information. We need to integrate those people. We cannot avoid it because the only way to avoid it would be to keep those people out of information. And that's not a way to go with humanity. You always want them to experience and gain wisdom. Now, the other thing I'm getting is that our timeline is incredibly lucky. This timeline could have looked like a lot of war, a lot of very well organized, systematic mustache man kind of stuff. But because the leaders in our country are so inept, because they are just these bloated, tired billionaires who are just like on drugs and anxious and like barely able to keep it together for the cameras, because they are ineffective, instead of being strong and powerful during this time, the country is more of a laughingstock. And that's good because the other countries who might do a world war with us, they're not really threatened. They're standing back and just going like, aw, look at them. I feel bad for them. That's good for us as common people too, because we might need to get rescued by China. I actually don't think that there's going to be any actual war conflict or anything. And I think that we have seen most of what is going to happen with migrants and detention facilities. I do not think it's going to get more advanced, or I don't think more facilities are going to get built. I think there is so much ineptness that it won't really be carried out much longer. I also think that the central government is going to start to go bankrupt. I don't know that it'll show this year, but I think internally some people are looking at some balance sheets and going, oh shit. It's kind of the same thing that happened to the Roman Empire, where it's like, ooh, oh, okay, if you only fund your military, it turns out that your common people don't have any health. And that's unsustainable. Welcome to America, home of the short-term attitude towards money-making and longevity and everything. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I think we're going to be just fine, but we are going through a revolution.